Marvel Comics is looking to revitalize their Ultimate Spider Man series just in time for their latest incarnation of the Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe got kicked off on an interesting note with Ultimate Invasion introducing the character of the Maker back into Marvel Comics. The villainous Maker attempted to recreate his home as well as circumvent several of the origin stories for key heroes in the Marvel Universe, including Peter Parker himself. My name is Araco Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and review the pages of Ultimate Spider Man Issue 1. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button over on this video. The new Ultimate Spider Man for a new Ultimate Universe. Visionary writer Jonathan Hickman and acclaimed artist Marco Checchetto bring you a bold new take on Spider Man, with this the debut title of the new line of Ultimate Comics. After the events of Ultimate Invasion, the world needs a hero who will rise up to take on that responsibility, prepare to be entangled in a web of mystery and excitement as the all-new Ultimate Spider-Man comic redefines the wall crawler for the 21st century. Ultimate Spider-Man Issue 1 is written over from Jonathan Hickman, featuring art from Marco Checchetto. We have colors from Matthew Wilson, letters from VC's Cory Petit, and the cover for the series is coming in over from Marco Checchetto and Matthew Wilson. Really appreciate how Spider-Man is kind of bleeding off of the cover itself with his webbing extending towards the edge of the frame here. Also, really appreciate the new trade dress and logo design for the Ultimate Comics. I think there are so many just visual indicators of why this title is so interesting here. Want to extend a thank you over to Comic Book Dispatch for posting our preview of Ultimate Spider-Man Issue 1 so fast, and dive into some of the gorgeous artwork in the issue coming in over from Marco Checchetto. I did find that Marco Checchetto brings a really beautiful visual aesthetic to Ultimate Spider-Man, which is seemingly helped from some of the colors over from Matthew Wilson. I think some of the dark panel borders really set the introspective mood that Jonathan Hickman is going for in introducing Peter Parker as a married man with a family over in the pages of his latest series. However, I found that some of the visual indicators on the second page were a little bit too obvious and already started to detract from some of my enjoyment within the issue. We already have this forced sequence of Peter Parker holding a ring, adjusting his shirt, as well as just like a downbeat personality throughout these panels. While I have no doubt in my mind that Ultimate Spider-Man is set to make a lot of readers happy with Peter Parker reintroduced towards a more domestic setting with his wife and children, I did find that while this is an interesting way to kick off the storyline, it doesn't automatically produce a great Spider-Man story. Really hoping that as this series develops, Jonathan Hickman will find something else in terms of science fiction to really implement Peter's life to be fascinating. Although, to give credit where credit is due, Peter's children do have a mysterious device that plays into the second half of the plot in a fascinating way towards the end of this breakfast sequence. The Ultimate Spider-Man series switched gears considerably when it moved away from the opening sequence over with Peter and his family and introduced the Daily Bugle. The Daily Bugle definitely holds a few more plot elements over than Peter's family does within the scope of the issue, but it's still not bringing some of these elements to the forefront. In fact, I almost found that in key situations, Ultimate Spider-Man just feels like a remix of an existing Spider-Man story, as we're introduced to characters like Harry Osborn, Wilson Fisk, as well as individuals that have just been mainstays across so many Spider-Man titles like Mary Jane. While I'm really happy that Marvel is moving forward and giving fans what they want, with the introduction of Peter's family introduced back into Ultimate Spider-Man, I still want to see a little bit more stakes, a little bit more tension within the story, and a strong reason as to what makes this Ultimate Spider-Man different over from Marvel's main series. I did find that all the dialogue in the Daily Bugle sequences were written incredibly well. There were really strong moments between Ben, J. Jonah Jameson, and Peter Parker in particular. I also loved the mysterious location where Ben and Peter move to a little bit after the opening sequence introducing the Daily Bugle over to readers here. However, I think as we get deeper within the issue, that fear of Ultimate Spider Man just constantly remixing some of your favorite Spider Man stories really comes to light over with the Goblin elements as well as the Osborn family. I'm hoping that Hickman has something else in store to make Ultimate Spider Man feel as varied and nuanced as it possibly can be over within the scope of the story. I did find in select sequences, especially the one towards the end of Ultimate Spider Man, that there's a sense of shorthand over between Mary Jane and Peter's relationship that doesn't necessarily ring true to me. To be honest, in terms of Jonathan Hickman scripts, I'm really looking at some of the relationship material closely because I think there were some falters in Hickman's recently previous release God series. So overall, I do think Ultimate Spider Man issue 1 is an improvement on some of those elements, but I still found there to be a level of shorthand that I was uncomfortable with. And I really want Jonathan Hickman to ensure that he's writing into the directions of the characters instead of guiding the dialogue over with the plot itself. At the very end of Ultimate Spider Man, Marvel Comics finally gave me what I wanted and introduced a slightly bigger science fiction origin over to Ultimate Spider Man than I had anticipated. Also, it really felt like Jonathan Hickman, as just a script writer in terms of the dialogue, really came alive and introduced some like fascinating scenarios and a meta nature over to this Ultimate Spider Man series. However, at the end of the day, I don't think Ultimate Spider Man carries that same sense of ambition that we've seen over on projects like Ultimate Invasion. That being said, though, I'm still incredibly happy Tony Stark showed up within the final couple pages because I think so far this Ultimate Universe is really interesting, and I think some of the meta nature attached to villains like the Maker are helping the universe really feel distinctive over from the first series. I just hope that there's still something else in mind, maybe in terms of Peter's brand new powers or new suits that'll really set him apart over from the main title. I even think that at this point, readers should actually pick up the main Zebwell series over with collaborators like John Romita Jr., as opposed to this main Ultimate Spider Man comic book. To me, it feels like there are way more plot threads, way more interesting developments that are core to the Marvel Comics line that are still happening over in that main book. However, at the end of the day, I still think that a lot of the writing and artwork over within Ultimate Spider Man issue 1 is still really solid. I guess my big question is if you're doing a brand new book like this, a brand new iteration of an existing title, how come you don't put the pedal to the metal and do something as epic or as thoughtful as Ultimate Invasion? So at the end of the day here, I find myself surprisingly mixed on Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1. Overall, I think this is a great series that has a lot of really solid craft, but I'm a little bit more caught up in terms of the way that this issue remixes some of my favorite Spider-Man stories without really crafting something unique for Peter Parker. I think the setting of this storyline is interesting. I like the idea of introducing an older Peter Parker who gets his powers in a different way than the core Spider-Man. I also really like the idea of Peter Parker and Mary Jane being together again with their children. But I really want the story that these plot elements are encased within to feel unique and different from the core title. I want to know from you. What are some of your thoughts over on Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1? Did you appreciate this issue more than I did? Did you like it less? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for coming to check out our video review over on Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1, and we'll be back to see wherever this series is headed over in the near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.